Welcome to Entry Point Faith, where every week we discover fresh meaning in the world so you can find faith your way. And now, please welcome your host, Pastor Nancy Lafferty.
We live in a very quick-paced, instant gratification culture. That is no surprise to you. We want everything now. Happiness now, success now, health now, love now. Almost all of the things and services that we buy and use can be secured immediately. We can get a meal within minutes, or your Diet Coke, within minutes at a drive-through window. We can get lots of cool stuff from Amazon in a couple of hours. We can get our hair cut, our nails done, get our cars washed, and our dogs bathed, all the moment that we wake up and decide those things need to happen. So people are no longer interested in waiting while the process of anything unfolds. We don't care about watching somebody flip a pizza in the air through the window anymore. Kids are no longer interested in being involved in the tedious process of putting on a play. Our patience has evaporated, and we want what we want when we want it, and that is now. So we all know that hard work and discipline are valuable traits to have, especially when we're trying to make changes in our lives or attain important goals. However, we all, and listen to me carefully, we all lack the right strategy for getting results. Because we're so impatient, we try to change too much all at once. Or we expect too much of ourselves. And our impatience ends up leading us right down the path to frustration and failure. Writer and consultant Royale Scuderi offers this insight. Sometimes we don't even take the first step because our dreams, goals, and desires seem so overwhelming, so intimidating, and so unachievable that we give up before we even start. Maybe it's time for a new strategy. Consider the wisdom found in that very common phrase, life is a marathon, not a sprint. If you were paying attention and you were with us 2 years ago, you might remember we did a service on this over at the Pavilion. As we run this marathon called our lives, we're in it for the long haul, not for the quick start. We need to pace ourselves instead of burning ourselves out with a quick burst. That same philosophy can be applied when we are attempting to make changes in our lives. Career advancement, or building a business, or educational goals, or improving our fitness, or daily habits, or figuring out how to retire well. We need to learn to take baby steps. Every big success started small. Every expert was once a beginner. This is the simplest, most effective strategy that we can use so that we can learn how to build on small victories as we move forward. The happiest and the most successful people will tell you they have achieved their level of work and life success by taking small steps. The first thing we need to do in this strategy is to look for mini victories. A mini victory is a realistic, quickly achievable, smaller portion of a larger objective. This bite-sized goal works well because we're able to see tangible progress rather quickly. So we feel a sense of accomplishment, and then we feel encouraged to move on to the next mini victory. For example, if our goal is to lose 50 pounds, well, of course, we want to lose 50 pounds by Friday. But we might set a mini goal of losing 5 pounds a month instead of losing 50 pounds by next week. Or we might decide it's easier to change our unhealthy eating habits by swapping out a piece of fruit for an unhealthy snack, or by choosing to eat a salad instead of a sandwich. When we swear off all sugar or all soda or all junk food all in one fell swoop, we easily fail within the first week or two. And then we get discouraged and fall off the wagon and we stop taking any steps. No one in this room has done that except me. Programs that are structured to help people overcome addiction use the phrase one day at a time. That is the perfect example of taking baby steps. Nobody swears off substances for the rest of their lives. They swear off using substances one day at a time. We commit to just one day. We all want to be more organized. We all want to declutter our houses. But we then decide that today we're going to do the whole house. We get overwhelmed and we don't finish it. We make more of a mess. But if we attempt to organize just one area or one room at a time, we're going to have a lot better success. This strategy is useful in almost every area of life, and when we are trying to achieve almost any goal. I know you're going to get sick of me saying this, but that's not going to stop me. Part of the trauma of this pandemic that is still affecting every single one of us this very moment is our inability to handle life the way we used to handle it. Everything changed. We are absolutely more anxious, more stressed, less able to focus, less willing to work very hard, and far more easily overwhelmed, every single one of us. I just read an article a couple weeks ago that said every school-aged child, from kindergarten to college senior, is 1 in 3 now have anxiety. That was never the case. Imagine having your entire educational process derailed, the way that these kids have had to deal with it for 2 years. So this is the perfect time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to acknowledge that whatever has us bogged down, it's time for us to begin practicing taking baby steps. Also inherent in the philosophy of taking baby steps that really resonates with me is that when we approach tasks with this strategy, we are being kinder to ourselves instead of beating ourselves up. We don't need to add stress to ourselves by judging ourselves harshly. This is the time to go easy on yourself. I'm always encouraged when I see suggestions on social media that encourage us to recognize the trauma that we've all been through and how to get through it. Here is one such Facebook post that led me to plan this service today. This is the perfect application of the taking baby steps strategy. Can't clean up the whole room? Clean a corner of it. Can't do all the dishes? Do one. Can't get in the shower? Wash your face. Always look for the thing you can do with the energy and focus you do have. Little wins pave the way for bigger wins. 1% beats 0%. I want you to echo that in your head the rest of this next month. 1% is better than nothing. I have a friend who used to continually avoid opening her mail. In all honesty, I think she had an irrational fear or a phobia about it. She would set her unopened mail on her dining room table every day for weeks, for months. She wouldn't open it. She was afraid of it. About once every 3 or 4 months, her mother would travel to visit her and sort out the mail. She would open all the mail, get rid of the junk mail, open the bills, set them all in a pile so she could pay her now far overdue bills and get caught up. And then she would always promise her mother, "I'll do better." And her mother would leave, and of course, it continued. About 2 years ago, after my friend learned she was about to lose her house from lack of making her house payment, she decided she needed to get control of the situation and stop the madness. So She shared with me, and she said these literal words, "I'm going to take baby steps." So every day she would at least look at the mail, and then she would either throw away or recycle the junk mail, and then she would put the rest of it on the table, which was her comfort. And then at the end of each week, she would open the mail and lay it on the table and walk away. And then she would go back, and finally, what her mom did would kick into her brain, and she would sort the mail and actually pay the bills. And now she is no longer afraid of her mail. She will open it up without hesitation and pay her bills. When we commit to taking baby steps, we gain clarity and focus, two important elements to help us be more successful. Moving forward with baby steps helps us focus on the only thing that is right in front of us, not something out there years away. Taking baby steps also helps us to stop procrastinating. Now, let's be honest, the more we procrastinate, the more the mail piles up on the dining room table, and the more overwhelmed we become. We feel like that task is completely unmanageable. It's too big, so we can't even start. When we break it down, though, we are much more willing to jump in and stop procrastinating. Therapist Yvonne Dolan tells us that there is actually a healing power in the process of taking baby steps, especially if we are in an exceptionally difficult time in our lives, especially if we are in trauma. She writes, "Though focusing on mundane tasks in the present can seem impossibly beside the point for someone who has suffered a life-shattering event, it can help build, inch by inch and yard by yard, a pathway out of despair and into the fullness of life." A Japanese doctor tells us about a patient of his, Mr. Tanaka. He had suffered from extreme back pain for nearly 50 years and had had 30 operations, none of them successful at reducing the pain. Every treatment offered to him had failed, and he was in constant pain, stuck in a wheelchair at home, in incredible hopelessness and despair. The doctor asked Mr. Tanaka to do something different. He said, when you feel even a tiny bit more comfortable, I want you to notice what is going on, note what the occasion is, write it down, and notice why and how you might be feeling a little bit better. So Mr. Tanaka said, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." And so for the next couple of weeks, he would go back to the doctor and nothing had changed. All of a sudden, 6 weeks later, Mr. Tanaka came in with a smile on his face. And he said, "So, I've been trying to notice things. And I got to tell you, something happened this week that I do feel a tiny little bit better about. A couple of days ago on the way home from the dentist, I stopped by the park, by the riverside, and I ate a couple of sandwiches and I fed the crumbs to the pigeons. And all of a sudden, I looked at those pigeons and they were playing with the crumbs, and I just sat there for a long time and I looked at the pigeons, and all of a sudden I noticed I didn't have any pain for a moment while I was sitting there." And as time passed, Mr. Tanaka noted more and more activities during which the pain began to slowly disappear. He started to garden a little bit. He even went fishing, and he even took, miraculously, a short trip with his wife. We may not all be experiencing severe pain the way Mr. Tanaka was, but we have all experienced difficult times. And in those moments when we have lost hope or faith and a sense of what life means, it's hard to take the first step. Sometimes we just don't want to do what we know we need to do. We aren't sure we can take that next right step because we feel so alone. My friends, you are never alone. God is always with us, right beside us. God is breathing with us, whispering encouragement into our ear, showing us the light, and helping us to see the way forward out of the darkness. Psalm 28:8 reminds us that God says, I will make you wise. I will show you where to go. I will guide you and watch over you. In just a few days, I will have surgery on my knee, and I will literally be forced to take baby steps to get back to walking. So this message was just as much for me as it was for you. I'm going to try to hear my words, listening to myself. And I find great comfort in knowing that God will be with me through this challenge. And it is my prayer that you will remember that also. Amen.
Thanks for joining us this week on Entry Point Faith. The Entry Point Faith community meets every other Sunday at Conner Prairie in Fishers, Indiana. For more information or to join in person, visit entrypointonline.org. Entry Point Faith is a part of the Switchpoint Media Network. Find a variety of podcasts by visiting switchpoint.media.